So Major League Baseball and the world of sports lost an absolute legend about 1 week ago. Bob Gibson, who was a all-time great and a St. Louis Cardinal throughout his 17-year career spanning from 1959 to 1975. I'm going to talk all about his lifetime of accomplishments. I'm Matt Levine. Welcome right here to the 954sports.com YouTube channel. Hope you're having an awesome weekend and enjoying your free time, if that's the case. It's been a tough year, 2020, right? In so many ways than one, especially in the world of sports. And Major League Baseball has had several legends pass away this year. At age 84 in Omaha, Nebraska, Bob Gibson passes away from pancreatic cancer. Cancer takes another life and another legend from us. Not only has the Cardinal family had to endure the loss of one legend in Gibson, about a month ago, Lou Brock, another Hall of Famer like Gibson, one of the all-time great base stealers and a gentleman as well, passed away. About a month ago as well, Tom Seaver, one of the all-time great right-handed pitchers in baseball in his own right, passed away. And just a couple of days ago, the man they call the chairman of the board, another great pitcher in his own right, spent all his years with the New York Yankees, Whitey Ford. Now, if you take Whitey Ford, you add his win total up with Seaver, and you add in Bob Gibson. Amazingly enough, you get 805 victories between the three legends, accounting for 250 wins, 251 wins, don't want to short him, in his career. 251 of those 805 belong to Bob Gibson against 174 losses. One career no-hitter in 1971, a sparkling 2.91 career ERA. Gibson, again, spent his entire career with the Redbirds. Inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame in 1981. Let's take a look at that place. The great Cooperstown in upstate New York. A quaint town with one heck of a Hall of Fame and museum that deserves to be checked out if you haven't gone yet. Maybe make it a goal of yours in 2021. Put it on the bucket list. It's one that I scratched off mine. Of course, that's the outside. Inside, here's one of the famed corridors and displays in the museum. Anything for me to get a mention or a look at, something to do with the San Diego Chicken, I'll get it in there. Easily my favorite mascot in all of sports. Second, maybe the Phillies Fanatic. As you see, one of the tributes to the mascots in professional sports, and just so much to check out. I'm one of these guys that goes to the museum and I like to read everything from open to finish. I can spend the whole day from the time they open the doors to close the doors. I love Cooperstown. And Cooperstown, in fact, had a very classy statement released about Gibson. Let's show you that. I'll read it to you. Bob Gibson's intensity and determination commanded respect and admiration from his peers on the field, as well as generations of baseball fans who followed him throughout his career, said Hall of Fame Chairman Jane Forbes Clark. Beautifully said. Great, great pitcher. There he is. 1935 to 2020. Passed away in his hometown where he was born and raised. Omaha, Nebraska. You like steak? Omaha's the city to go to. Of course, the longtime home of the legendary College Baseball World Series, Omaha. Not an easy upbringing for Bob Gibson, raised in the housing projects. His father died right before birth. His mom had 6 siblings, and he had 5 siblings. His mom had 6 children in all. and she worked in a laundromat. Gibson found that outlet through sports. Look at the old groovy Letterman's jacket right there, right? With the initials sewn in. Took his act from high school to Creighton University after a stellar high school career. Spent playing basketball. Baseball, did the same at Creighton. Played many positions on the baseball diamond. Great basketball player, 6'2". But they say he could jump out of the gym with tremendous leaping ability. Averaged 20 points per contest in his basketball career. Would sign on to play with the St. Louis Cardinals in professional baseball, being drafted. But first, he took a detour. Decided he wanted to hoop it up for none other than the legendary Harlem Globetrotters. Look at that. How cool of an artifact is that? His identification card for the Globetrotters in the 57-58 season. And it looks like it was signed by the owner and founder of the Globetrotters, none other than Mr. Abe Saperstein. So after the pit stop with the Globetrotters, it was on to the big leagues. For the ultra-competitive and fierce Gibson, we'll hit on that in a moment, struggled a little bit in his first couple seasons in the bigs. He was hampered by a couple of things. Didn't have a set spot in the rotation, was bouncing back from the minors to the majors, looking to find his command and control and discipline as a pitcher. He was also a victim of racial bias, along with other black players on the team, including Curt Flood. Go Google him, what he meant to free agency in baseball. Bill White, another great one. Grew up with Bill White on broadcast of the Yankees on their flagship station, WPIX Channel 11 in New York, with, holy cow, the great Phil Rizzuto, White and Rizzuto, one of my favorite baseball tandems in the broadcast booth. Back to Bob Gibson. They had a manager on his first big league squad until the summer of 1961 named Solly Hemus. And it stunted, again, Gibson and a handful of other players with his racial bias. Wasn't able to grow as a player, so St. Louis made a move that was a good one in more ways than one. They replaced Hemus with Johnny Keane, who knew Gibson from his minor league days of managing the hard-throwing right-hander. Keane had a nice professional relationship with Gibson and trusted him as a ball player and wanted to give him room to grow, and that he did. Put him full-time in the rotation in 62, and Gibson's career would skyrocket. Get to the baseball in a moment, but I want to give you a quick side fact. Bob Gibson, not only a Hall of Famer on the diamond, but off it as well. It played an integral role in civil rights. In fact, in 1961, the St. Louis Cardinals became the first sports team to end segregation. How about that? No longer were there clubhouses for the different color players. No longer did they have to stay at different hotels. The players shared one clubhouse the way it should be. Shared one hotel the way it should be. And Bob Gibson played a big-time role in making that happen. So another tip of the cap to the Baseball Hall of Famer. In 62 goes 15-13 his first season as a starter for Johnny Keane. Showed flashes of brilliance. At one time during the summer, he didn't allow a run for 22 2/3 of an inning straight. Gibson just had a glorious, glorious career, as shown here by his placard in the Hall of Fame. listing all his accomplishments: an 8-time All-Star, 9-time Gold Glover. 5 times he won at least 20 games. Struck out 3,117 batters. Known for a dazzling fastball and a sweeping slider. And that fierce, no-nonsense approach to the game that made him so famous. Throwing his blood, sweat, and tears seemingly into every single pitch, giving you everything he had. The players knew on game day, don't mess with Bob. They didn't talk to him. He was so locked in the zone. Locked in on one thing, doing his best on the hill, representing his team well, and winning. In fact, one of his former teammates, who also coached with him in the bigs, and I'll talk about that in a moment, post-playing career for Gibson, look at this card, was the great Joe Torre, right? Who I remember so well as the skipper of some of my favorite New York Yankee championship teams in 1996, as Derek Jeter used to call him, Mr. Torre. Look at that card. Got to remember, Steve Carlton, Cardinal before a Philly legend. Look at that, the Hall of Fame card right there. Showing all 4 Cardinal players that meant so much to that organization. Lou Brock spoke about him. Torre, Carlton, Brock, Gibson. Some real superstars. And guys who are destined for greatness. When asked about Gibson, there's a reply Torre gave. Pride, intensity, talent, respect, dedication. You need them all to describe Bob Gibson. In Cooperstown, 1981. Getting enshrined. When he retired in 1975, there's a picture of the older Gibson donning that Cardinal white home jersey with his number 45. Getting ready to strike, throw a strike right there. He was a 2-time world champion, won a title in 64 and 67 respectively. Both times the MVP in the World Series wins. 7 in 2 lifetime in his 9 starts in the postseason with 8 complete games. Talk about a different day and age. Completely different day and age. How amazing is this stat? That of the 482 starts he had in his outstanding career, 255 of them were complete games. In 1968 and 69, back-to-back years, each of those seasons, he had 28 complete games apiece. Again, in 68 and 69. No, there were no such things as pitch counts. This is an era where men were men and baseball players were baseball players. Pitchers had what you call rubber arms. They got the job done no matter what. Seemingly every start they pitched like it would be maybe their last. Threw everything they had. Complete work horses. Amazing. He also won 2 Cy Youngs in 70 and 68. 1968, he also won the National League's MVP. If you don't know about 1968, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Bob Gibson essentially highlighted 1968, which you can check out some fast facts, was the year of the pitcher. Pitchers completely dominated that year by completely shutting down batters. And Gibson's earned run average was 1.12, a live ball error record for 300 more innings pitched. Had 13 shutouts. Talked about the shutouts, or the complete games. Threw a lot of shutouts in his day as well. He won 12 starts in June and July, pitching a complete game every time. 8 of which were shutouts. Only allowed 6 runs in 108 innings in that stretch. Pitched 47 consecutive innings during this stretch. And of the 28 complete games, out of the 34 he started, of the games he didn't complete, he was pinch hit for, meaning Gibson was not removed from the mound for another pitcher the entire season. Only let up 38 runs in 1968. In fact, history was made. You might have saw it there, those fast facts. I can't see anything. I have horrible eyes. I can see home plate, though, if I need to fire a strike. Maybe. Anyway, Denny McLain was the ace of the Detroit Tigers, won 31 games, also took home the American League MVP. Gibson in taking the Cy Young and MVP as well. Those two pitchers, the only to ever do that in both leagues in a single season in big league baseball history. As JJ used to say in good times, dynamite, and then some. In Game 1 of the World Series, perhaps Gibson's shining moment, he pitched for a win. Struck out a big league record 17 batters in that World Series game. However, the Cardinals, who were World Series champions, as I said a moment ago, in 67, failed to repeat as champs. They would lose a heartbreaker. Gibson would allow a 2-run triple in Game 7 late in the game, the latter innings, and they would suffer the World Series loss to the Tigers. As Motown went to celebrate, and St. Louis was left to console with Gibson on what could have been. Also a great hitter, Bob Gibson. I'd expect as much for a guy who was good enough to play hoops for the Globetrotters. Slugged 24 career home runs. There you see him. Right-handed batter. Had 5 homers in 65. 70, he hit .303. Career .206 hitter. Not too shabby for a pitcher to be above the Mendoza line. And he had 144 career RBI. After baseball, he did some managing with Joe Torre. First, he joined Torre in the Big Apple. There you see him with the Mets uniform and that number 45. Torre hired him for what he called an attitude coach. How about that? Torre and Gibson didn't last long in New York. After they were fired, spent 3 years in the mid-'80s in Atlanta, 82 to 84, winning 1 division championship. There you see Gibson with the Braves uniform. Post-coaching, he went into some broadcast, did some work for local stations in St. Louis. Also worked nationally a little bit for ESPN. Lived what seemed like a great life. Fiercely determined, devoted to the sport of baseball, and a Hall of Famer, and his legacy will live on in Cooperstown and beyond. He was married twice. This is his second wife, who he leaves behind, Wendy. He had 1 of his 3 children with her. He leaves behind his family and, again, a tremendous legacy. Bob Gibson, one of those guys I would have loved to seen pitch in person. Before my time, no doubt about it. There are a handful of guys. He's right up there with Koufax. So my condolences to Bob Gibson's family, May he rest in peace.